And so these two security guards come up and they're like, you're leaving with us, like, and they're like going to grab my arm. And I'm like, listen, like either I walk out of this hotel. I looked at them right in the eye. I'm like, either I walk out of this hotel on my own or you don't walk out of this hotel. When did you decide to become your own boss? When was the event or events that led to it? So I was working for the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Some older viewers of my stream might know this story. And I was working for the Hyatt Regency Hotel as a concierge. You basically are a complaint desk. I don't know how else to describe it. If anybody ever worked in hotel management, they would know this. But so there's like different types of things. There's like the bellhop, okay, I think is his name. The guy that brings your luggage upstairs. That guy gets tipped to dude. That guy makes like bank, okay? And that guy sat right next to me. So that all that guy does is drag your luggage to your room for you. And he gets like a $20 tip every time. Okay, you don't tip a concierge, even though they work way harder. So like an example of like concierge stuff is like, basically it's like, I don't like it. And then you just have to deal with that. Like, so you get people to come to your desk and they have all kinds of complaints, like the pool's too hot or the movie theater in there is not good or like, and they ask you really dumb questions too. So I worked in Lake Tahoe in the, let me show you a picture of Lake Tahoe. Here's where I lived, okay? Lake Tahoe, really beautiful place, right? Here's something else that you'll notice about this place. It's really fucking big, okay? Here's something else you'll notice about this place. There's no way to enter this place. You cannot go to Lake Tahoe without seeing the lake. It's physically impossible. You can't teleport in. You can't fly in. You can't drive in. There is no way to get into the Tahoe Basin without seeing the lake. I don't care, okay? Like, there's just no way, all right? So the number one question that I would get asked, and I guess this was like some kind of forewarning, some kind of future that this was gonna happen too, because I get asked the same questions on Twitch millions of times a day, right? Was, where's the lake? Where's the lake? The Hyatt Regency Hotel in Incline Village, Nevada, is located literally 2 minutes away from the lake. You can walk down the street and you get to the lake. There's no way that you got to the hotel without knowing where the lake is, sir. So the lake is right there, okay? That's where it is. Just walk that direction, the direction that any way you could have gone. And then the second question that I got that was the most common question asked was, when are the whale watching tours? When are the whale watching tours? It's a freshwater lake, okay? When are the whale tours? Okay, all right. So anyway, concierge desk was a pretty shitty job. And there was a person at that pretty shitty job who was my supervisor. And she was very draconian. She'd make me come to work like super early blah, blah, blah. But I was pretty good at marketing. This was back in the time when I was like learning how to do like marketing stuff. So one day, the general manager of the hotel came down to see us. And I was like, hey, why isn't there a thing where we could just answer a lot of the questions that people ask, you know, about the hotel? Because I get asked these questions like a million times, and like maybe people could benefit from having that knowledge. And he's like, that's a good idea. Why don't you make it? And I said, okay, I will. And I did. I made something called the Hyatt Happenings, which was like this little sheet of paper you put under everybody's door. And it just had like information about like what to do. It was cool, right? And they still use it to this day. And I did that for the GM. So then the GM fucking loved me. And I had a lot of special privileges. And this really pissed my supervisor off. So one day, my grandmother comes up, and she's in her 80s. And she comes up to Lake Tahoe, and she calls me up, and she said, Devin, I really want to have lunch with you. And it's probably the last time that I can fly on a plane, because apparently when you're like old, you just like can't fly on planes anymore. I don't really understand why, but like I guess if you're just old enough, you just can't fly anymore. You just can't do that. So she's like, this is probably one of the last times that I can have lunch with you, and actually was the last time that she came up. So she wanted to have lunch with me for like an hour and a half at a restaurant nearby. So I went to my supervisor, and I said, hey, like my grandmother's up here. I really want to go see her, and I'll just take an hour and a half off, and then I'll be back. And she says, you can't, remember, she hates me. She's like, you can't leave your shift. And I said, why not? And she's like, because we're really busy, and you can't just leave. You have a job. That's what you do. Like, you know, you have to commit to your hours. And I was like, well, I commit to my hours every day, and maybe there could be like a little bit of exception to see my 80-year-old grandmother. Would that be cool? and we're not busy, we haven't had a person come to the desk in 1 hour. And the only time that the person did come to the desk was to ask when the fucking whale watching tours are. So if I just put up a sign that says the whale watching tours don't happen because it's a freshwater lake, you fucking idiots, we'll probably be good. And I can go see my grandmother. And also there's another person here to cover for me. And he said he would. And the guy like raised it. Okay. No, you can't do it no matter what. And then she literally says, if you leave, you will be blacklisted from all Hyatts. You can never work at a Hyatt again. And you can never stay at another Hyatt again. So I got really mad, and this is remember I'm 16, okay? So I was 18. I don't know how old I was. I was young, but I was like I said some really douchey shit that I wouldn't have said before. This chick was like in her 50s, so I was like, listen, here's what's really going on here, okay? You're above 50. You're mad because I have my entire life in front of me, and you are above 50, and you're working at a hotel, and so you basically make what you're going to make, and you're never going to aspire to that, and you're never going to become anything more. But I'm going to do much more, and you know that, and that threatens you. And so because of that, you're very mad. And I understand that you're really mad, but you shouldn't let that get in front of letting me go on an hour break because, it's okay. Some people are going to be more successful than you. That's just how it is. That's very condescending. She fucking flips out immediately. It gets so fucking mad. It's like yelling at me in the back of this of the back room of the concierge desk. He's getting super mad, and so she calls security, and security's like these two Polish guys that show up. And again, I'm a huge douche. Like you guys don't have no idea. I'm embarrassed to say this now because it sounds like that happened, okay? But it's such a fucking embarrassing story. Like I would never fucking do this ever again, okay? But like I competed in martial arts all my life and I was very confident. A lot of people know this. And so these two security guards come up and they're like, "You're leaving with us," and they're like going to grab my arm, and I'm like, "Listen, either I walk out of this hotel." I looked at them right in the eye. I'm like, "Either I walk out of this hotel on my own, or you don't walk out of this hotel." And they're like. I was like, that was it. And I'm like, I'm walking off my shift. I fucking quit. And I went to my grandmother and I said, I just quit my job to be here. And she's like, and she was like fucking 80. So she's like, oh my God, that's so sad. Like, I'm so sorry that I did that. And she was taking personal accountability for it. I'm like, no. I'm like, listen to me. From this day on, I will never work for another person again. I'm never, ever going to work for another person again. I will never, ever be in a situation again where I can't take an hour to go see my own grandmother and someone doesn't let me do that. I will always have the freedom to do that no matter what I do. And you've empowered me to do that. And then 10 years later, when she was very close to death, she was 91, I visited her, and that was after I was in CLG. I was living in Pasadena as the CEO of Counterlogic Gaming. I had done what I said. For the last 10 years, I only had worked for myself. I went to her and in Stanton, I thanked her. I was like, "Grandma, because you were there that day, I never worked for anybody again, and I lived true to my own values, and you did that. Like I wanted you to know that." And I saw her before she died. She died a little bit later after that, and that's how I did that, is because I just made a commitment to because there was, sorry, I'm kind of a crazy subject, but There was something symbolic about that visit and seeing her, right? That was like, who the fuck am I gonna be if I don't have control of my life? And it doesn't mean you have to be an executive, or it doesn't even matter that I've later learned that you can work for other people and you can be on a team, you can be in a job, right? And it's totally fine, but you should never be in a situation where somebody where you'd have to sacrifice something very important to you. To fulfill somebody else's arbitrary deadline or revenue goals or something like that, and whatever it is, whatever the reason was, I realized then that there was a very important aspect of freedom that I needed from that exchange, and that I would go back and I would probably work for someone or on a team or something again, but I would always retain that freedom and that promise to my grandmother. So yeah, that's the story of how I became my own boss.